Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Drip Drop Distro Studio. I'm Mikey, of course, your host, and I got some freaks with me today. I'm very happy to have them. A couple of them you've seen before. We have Doug Campbell, CEO of Drip Drop. We have Ernie, CMO of Drip Drop. And then we have a new face, Quincy, also known as Q. He's the GOAT. You've probably seen him slithering around the trade shows. He's our brand manager. And I want to just start off with Quincy, actually. So could you introduce yourself to the audience, Quincy, and just let us know where you came from, how you got into the business, and why you work for this slave driver to my right?
So I actually, my name is Quincy Logan. I've been the brand director here for quite a while. I originally got into graphic design when I started working for Troy and Troy's previous companies, and worked for him for quite a while. Eventually moved back to Oregon and started my own company doing video production, helping out local businesses getting onto cable television and helping to grow their business. I eventually, quite a few years later, moved back to Idaho, kind of re-linked up with everyone that I kind of used to know, and then got started here at Drip Drop, and been kind of taken over ever since. Taken over all the trade show preparation, managing the booths when we're at the trade show. If there is any downtime, helping to bring people into the booth and send them over to other salesmen and whatnot. But it's been a lot of fun. I had no idea that the counterculture industry is what it is. Yeah,
well, we love having you here. Quincy is a man of many talents, very direct. And he runs a tight ship. So today we're talking about building a brand, and that's why we have the cast we have today. These guys are all experts in building brands in this space. Quincy's newer to the space, but he's no slouch. He knows what he's doing. So
I want to ask Quincy something real quick. I don't want to interrupt. You work for Troy?
Oh, you don't remember that?
Well, I heard about it. So did Troy because Troy had a massive company then. Did Troy remember you?
Oh yeah. So
well, I just because when you got brought into here, like you always were like a super bright spot right away, and then I don't ever remember like Troy being like, oh yeah, Quinn. So like Troy had you under his freaking hand, and probably didn't even know it because there was just a pile of people on top of you.
We didn't interact a ton, but he definitely remembered. No, like we were definitely in meetings and whatnot, but it definitely went through.
Was this at Lotus?
Yeah, it was at Lotus.
Well, over there, they had a ton of people at one time, and then not to mention, did they have a ton of people? They had a ton of bosses. Like when they sat in their freaking boardroom, there's like freaking 35 chairs. You know what I'm saying? Like I would have killed myself over there. Like literally.
Yeah, when I worked there for a short period of time, and that was at the tail end of all of the bosses, and it was still immense at that time. There was like 12 people. I'd have to go present the projects in front of like 12 people, and none of them wanted to see me. So I had a lot of fun there.
They did some amazing stuff over there. They're still doing some great stuff. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying.
No, it wasn't a negative experience.
Yeah,
they were just busy people,
But okay, all right, so that's good.
Anyways, let's get back on track here. Sorry about the slip up there. But so the first thing we're going to cover is how many brands. And I want to start with Doug because I've been with Doug for about 10 years. Next year will be 10 years, which is, I mean, it's sad. It's happy. There's a lot of things, a lot of emotions there. No, I love it. It's been the best thing I've ever done. But yeah, so Doug, when I first met you, I remember you were selling jumper packs for cars.
What?
And Doug was selling.
Well, I got dragged into that. That's a funny story.
You were selling also cleaning products with that.
I found the next ShamWow guy.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
that was.
I swear to God, I found him, dude. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to say his name or anything.
We know his initials,
but I'm a real good sales guy, and I'm telling you right now, this motherfucker was a fucking talented dude. And I was
Billy Mays. He was like Billy Mays.
I swear to God, this kid was. But the problem is with all these guys that are really good, they normally have the same problems, and especially when they're men and they're good-looking guys. And this kid had the draw. Man, this is he had it all. But man, he also had some bad problems personally, with women and money and then all the substances and anything in between. And but man, you met him.
Oh yeah,
I'm telling you right now, this kid was a monster, and unfortunately, he couldn't get out of his own way. And but I was dead set ready to put this dude on TV, even though I didn't even know how to get on TV. I was like, I'm getting this dude on. But The same day that I wrote him a check, his biggest check he ever got, I made him do 2 trade shows with me. I said, listen, I'm going to get you mic'd up. I said, we're going to get you a brand. We created a brand kind of on a budget.
Was it like Super Clean or something like
it was,
that?
it was called like, it was called Incredible Clean,
It turned into Incredibly Clean later.
But it was like, he had a really good product.
I've never heard any of this.
Dude, this is a good story. I'll try to wrap it up. But
basically
basically what happened is I ran into this kid. I ran into him from the same person that brought me the jumper pack thing. I got into the jumper pack thing, and it was really cool because it was about the size of a cell phone, and it would jump your car. So it was, all we had to do is go rent a badass car, show up to where a bunch of people are, unhook the battery, and just hook this up, and we would jump a car. And like when you did it, it was amazing. And then you had me, and then you also had this individual that was selling, and he was a killer, dude. And so we just sold a bunch of them. But the main reason why I got into that was, if you guys remember, Sky Mall?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
on the
magazine.
magazines. So it was a complete no-brainer because the guy that brought me into this thing already had an open PO with Sky Mall. And so they were taking half of the container that we needed to buy to ship these things over. And so we ended up getting it. So we had to sell the other half of the container. So we did these trade shows, and that's how I ran into the chemical guy. And he was going door to door, and this kid could literally go door to door and make $1,500 a day. And I was going to go hard on this kid. Like, I called my brother. I showed videos. I was like, bro, I found the next Billy Mays. And I still believe in my heart that he was going to be. You met him.
Yeah.
This kid was a monster. So, but it just never happened.
I'll tell more of a story about him at the end if I can remember. But that ended up, he came back after he got out of jail, and Doug was doing real estate still at the time. And he came back, and Doug was like, he's going to be a salesman. Don't worry about it. But I was like overseeing the whole place.
He's just a problem.
And it got real out of control. And it was a...
Well, the thing that sucks about him when I think about it, and there's a reason why we don't say his name, because now he attacks me. So it's like I had, there's a few people that me and Troy, because I know Troy too has done this. We've had to walk away from people, you know what I mean? And I'll be real with you, I'm not the exception to the rule. I've had people walk away from me. Okay, so, I had one of my business mentors, brokerage mentors, one of my brokers, and I'll even say his name, Clark Bill, you guys still look up to today, that walked away from me, and it still breaks my heart. Do you get what I'm saying? But like, Clark didn't walk away from me because he didn't love me. I think Clark walked away from me because he knew that I was always willing to push the envelope and do some things. Never did anything unethical, of course, but I've had people walk away from me too, so it's just tough. But yeah, it's that I swear that the kid was a freaking monster, but he lost his shot with us.
Yeah.
I don't think he lost his shot in life. I mean, I'm not no kingmaker or anything.
And that actually happened, to kind of roll that into the beginnings of Drip Drop. That happened right as I came into the company, and that's when we started building Drip Drop brands. We were America at the time, but we started to roll directly into...
Did you say America?
America without the
America.
A. And that's why one of the reasons why we changed it, because the sales guys would get on the phone and they would be like, this is Albert with America Distribution. And they'd go, America Distribution? No. America Distribution. America without the first A. And it was like this confusing thing. It was a funny name, but it wasn't like super practical.
Well, the funny
to
thing
say.
about that, what Mikey doesn't say, is we all were told when we created this company that's now Drip Drop in 2014, it was actually called America Distribution.
Yeah, it was different.
And we were actually, I had another partner at the time, and this is before Troy and Mark obviously came back from basically fat camp.
Oh, yeah.
And so... and I set this company up for basically Troy and Mark, hoping that they would end up wanting to work together again, because I thought we had a really good team. But Mikey was the first employee of America Distribution, and we were told we were getting in the vape space, and Mikey was making unbelievable e-liquid. I still think to this day Mikey made some of the best e-liquid that was on the planet. Unfortunately, we just weren't that great at vape.
We weren't. Yeah, we weren't. It was sad.
I think a lot of it had to do with me. Like, I was passionate about vape, but I wasn't passionate about it like some of the younger guys that were in the game.
Yeah.
And that did some monster stuff. And that's a big part of building a brand, is you got to be passionate about what you do and stuff. And I loved it and stuff, but these kids took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
You know what
They
I mean?
were living
I
it.
didn't grow up in a home where my parents smoked. right? And most of these guys that were in the vape space, if you talk to them, they grew up in a smoker's house. They had family members that died. I mean, I had some aunts and uncles, but I haven't had anybody that died of lung cancer in my family or anything. But some of these kids that grew some monster companies had that story and had that heart and had that passion. And maybe that's what it was. But I definitely had the right juice maker. I know that. But I definitely didn't have you over there making my branding at the time, or somebody like Ernie, or even like Erica that was with us. I still bring up Erica. I know a lot of that's like a fire spot here. But Erica did some really good things.
Amazing graphics.
I had I always say this all the time. My team just keeps getting better. So even if I lost somebody, even on the sales front, had some amazing sales guys here. Some of them that aren't doing so well, but a lot of them that are doing really well. I like to think that I helped them, but they also helped me for sure. But yeah, like on the vape side of it, we put a lot of heart into it, and no one said that we didn't try.
Yeah, no, we tried.
But
we did it.
But we got the shit kicked out of us from some of these dudes from LA and Ohio, and
we hung in there though.
We did. Oh yeah, we know. Trust me, we never give up.
I'll never forget the photo shoot backdrop. Of the chick in the kitchen.
Oh yeah.
But when I ended up taking over America,
we're
talking about brands and branding and all this stuff, but it was like one of the things when we came up with names. So when we first started that company, which ended up being Drip Drop, same EIN number as America. So I never shut it down. I never bankrupted the company. But when I ended up buying out the partner side of it, Mikey was employee number one. And I remember calling Mikey and saying, hey, Mikey, I'm going to take over the company. Who's staying? And we literally had 4 or 5 employees.
People, yeah.
And Mikey's like, nobody. Everybody hates you.
Just me. I'm the only one, dude.
Mikey's like, I'm the only one that can tolerate you. And I'm like, well, that's fine. If they're leaving, it's fine. But I came in and I hired a graphic designer who's doing really well in LA now. Her name's Wendy Yvonne. I want to bring her up because I give her kudos.
We love you, Wendy.
She came up with our
amazing.
logo.
Yeah.
Dude, and our logo was done. But the day one when I came in to the company, this is before Troy, probably about 2 months before Troy came in. And I said, we're changing our name. I'm not changing the bank account. I'm not bankrupting the company, even though my CPAs and my attorneys are telling us to bankrupt it, because that's what they're telling us to do. I'm going to take on the debt. Which was stupid, you know what I mean? But it's I hate doing that. If we say we're going to pay our bills, we fucking pay our fucking bills, right? This is how I was raised. Troy was raised in the same fucking thing, And so I come in, I said, we're going to rename the company. And I never forget Mikey, because they picked America. And Mikey goes, I feel like you named the company the first time when we all named it America. And I said, what do you mean? I had 2 names that I was wearing. One you could flip-flop, which was Vape Graffiti or Graffiti
Vape, yeah.
And then I came up with Drip Drop. I didn't have the distro part of it. And I said, Mikey's like, we had a whiteboard. Remember, it's me, you, and Wendy, right? And I said,
in that office.
I remember Drip Drop. So we wrote Drip Drop on the board. And then Derek Dame, who was in the space, and we never really did a lot with Derek, but Derek did some pretty big things. He was the first person that I ever seen short distribution to distro.
Yeah, it was known.
Okay, so he rebranded his name into Known Distro, and I always loved that, And there was a time when me and Derek were kind of rough around the edges with each other, but nothing crazy or serious. We're friends now, and we talk, and I wish him well. But what happened was when Mikey refreshed my memory about Drip Drop, we wrote it on the board. He had just named his company Known Distro, and I said, what if we put distro on the end of it? And then Mikey's like, triple D. You know what I mean? And then, dude, it was done. And then Wendy did it. And that was a branding moment for it. But, we really didn't have the best of brands then. We had some really good partners at the time. We had a big tobacco chain that's actually our neighbors. And this used to be their building that we're in. And they helped get us some good grounding on what we needed to do. And then now here we are. We're 38 employees. We got Quincy, we got Ernie. Troy is obviously still here lurking and making moves. Ended up getting Motu, which was an unbelievable freaking hire.
Yeah,
still
huge.
got my first employee. Mikey, got Ryan over here in the back.
They all came and went, dude.
And then now when people think of brands, because that's what this podcast is supposed to be about, is talking about brands. When I think of brands, sure, I'd love to take all the credit for the shit. But the reality of it is I'm a front of the house guy. I'm a sales guy. So most of these branding things and most of these things that we come up with have come out of Troy's hands, Quincy's hands, the people that were in Quincy's position before, guys like Ernie on the marketing side. And, and I always try to partner myself up with back of the house guys because I'm a front of the house guys. And because a good sales guy is always going to gravitate himself to really good products, really good marketing, really good branding. And that is an integral part of even getting out to go sell something. If you don't have those things in the beginning, you're not dead, but you better be a damn good fucking sales guy, you know. And I can sell anything, you know. Motu can sell anything, but the magic is when you have it.
You got to believe in the product.
You got to have it.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
And I think that's where like people like Quincy and Ernie are so strong. And I kind of want to kick the same thing over to Ernie. And we kind of covered this the last time we had Ernie on. And then we're going to move to Quincy as well. I want to kind of cover everybody's. But what are some brands that you built and you know, kind of go along the same lines of Doug? I mean, in terms of like, you know, what the brand is, the brand identity, all of those things. And kind of, I guess, educate us on some of the things you've done in that space.
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with a mentor of mine, and it was fun. He was just like, I really want to know how many brands you built. I was like, for what?
Yeah.
Why? He's like, I need you to understand something. You're turning 42, April 1st. And he's like,
April Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day. And he's just like, hey, like, I want you to recognize something. And I was like, okay. So I came back to him a week later. I was like, holy shit. I built like 98 brands.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, how many of them came from your laptop? Came back to him a couple days later. I was like, about 50 of them. And he goes, and how many of them have won? And I was like, shit, 17 have been acquired. And I think the coolest thing about building brands, there's two schools of thoughts. There are the brands that me and Doug grew up with, like people that actually build brands are salesmen.
Yes.
Then there are, this day and age, that actually build brands is digital and media, right? The Mikeys of the world.
Yeah.
And it's really what people don't, the biggest thing that we'll always see and what I've seen at Trade at Champs and everything else is like, when we came out with the roadshow with our new trailer and everything, you saw people come in to hang out. That was home.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there going, I looked at Quincy, I was like, what did we do? You just see people on the stage and I'm like, golly, these guys are just hanging out. Doug's friends, and I see Sue sitting down. You see Troy hanging out with him and his friends and his family, and et cetera. You're like, man, for me, that was just like, I have a lot of people come up to me still for NOS. They're like, I love NOS. Then I was like, and I learned the hard way to always say thank you.
Yeah.
Because that was like a paycheck for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
In my head. But then I also thought, I was like, if it wasn't for them and their love and the passion, then I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
Like, I was able to exit and be very fortunate financially at 20.
Sure.
Right. And I Mike Tyson'd my money, but then I learned how to make it back.
Yeah, you Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
And then,
gratitude's important. That's the point. Yeah.
I've seen some people in my camp, Mike Tyson, their money too.
You got to yeet that money, you know.
But I mean, like being part, like seeing Liquid Death and having a really good window at that, and like, you know, seeing brands like there's a drink that I'm part of called Humanity, and part with Liquid Death and all these guys. I've watched Liquid Death from the seed round at $2 million seed round.
Yeah.
They're publicly evaluated at 700.
Yeah, they're huge. They're everywhere.
Those guys nailed it, man.
They
It's
did something
canned
great.
water, and all they nailed was that. I think the biggest thing you can learn about building a brand is when you can listen.
Yeah.
And when you can remove your biasness and understand that. I've seen Doug get hit by everybody. Hey, I got the best. And I'm sitting there like, go to Brett.
Yeah.
Right. And then go to Kyle. And it's like, and it's very rare when like Doug will say, this is money.
Yeah.
Right? It's because he sees a brand that's listening, like Paperboys, right? Everybody knows that I'm not a consumer of counterculture.
Sure.
I'm a straight entrepreneur, and I love my whole team at Drip Drop. When I saw the Paperboys thing, I was just like, Doug, can I? He's like, no, chill. He goes, look deeper. I saw the price points. I was like, oh, this is genius.
Yeah.
How did you do this? Right? How did you get that price point? I got to sit down with Ryan and Chris and really understand where their margins are. I was like, yo, you nailed it. Like the low hanging fruit.
Yep.
And it's there. Like branding's not needed because they listen to the consumer.
Yep.
Right. So I think that's
Well, not only that, those guys are really good users.
Yeah.
we found out at Champs.
What better paper people there are on the planet than those guys?
Yeah, I mean, dude, they nailed it on it. I mean, they got the best French paper on the planet. Everybody knows that European paper is the best. You know, the branding on it's awesome. The price point on it's awesome. And then they hit something that most people don't think, you know. Most people aren't good rollers of anything.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So
Yep.
they came up with these boats and then the crutches, and it's just genius because once you already have that type of fold on it, it just makes it easier to roll something up, you know, whatever your favorite things to roll up, you know.
You see, those are the key pieces. Like you got to listen to the consumer. So like I've got guys that hit me up all the time. And I don't know if I should be saying it, but I'm going to take the risk anyway. But I've got a friend of a friend of a friend to a very high level of people pitching me on building a drink for Playboy.
Sure.
Right. So there's another instance. Do you take another thing that's a household name and go build it? You could. That's hard.
Yeah.
Right. Like what I did at NOS was basically passion. All of you know I'm a fucking car nut.
Yep.
Right. So like that was easy for me. But if you told me to go do this for like Duracell
Sure.
Yeah.
and go do like it makes sense. It's a battery, energy. I'm not passionate about it.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna come that's very 1% of this world that come. NOS was so organic because we were able to nail 4 wheels in the tailpipe.
Yeah.
Everything we have at like Paperboys, they listened. When I'm thinking of Playboy now, there's like high level brand thinking. It's just like, who's the audience? How? What ingredients? So now you got to take a step back and it's like, we shouldn't do an energy drink. We should go and do like an energy water, or we should be doing an herbal tea fuse, et cetera, et cetera. And you got to look at the numbers and everything else. Those type of brands, it's really not that great. But when you do something like Paperboys or you do something like Loose Leaf, and again, I'm not a consumer. I'm just looking at it as entrepreneurs, and I'm talking to Ray, and I'm like, damn, you guys really listen to the consumer. You gave them the flavor. You gave them the size. You gave them the packaging. You gave them the number per unit.
Yep.
Like, that's good business. So building a brand necessarily just isn't the creative side on this, or like the selling side. It's like, take a step back and look at a P&L and look at
Sure.
the consumer and what are you offering to them? Because there's a lot of brands that you and I see every day that are forcing it.
Yeah.
And we kind of look, and that you don't belong in this house. You don't belong in Drip Drop if you're forcing something. We see something when when a manufacturer hits the customer's demand, that's a brand that we take in-house. And it's like, yes, you've got the right thing. But we've also learned that a lot of them change, and that's crazy. Like vape, I don't even want to. You're still teaching me about it. It's single coil, dual coil,
Yeah.
Vape was a grinder.
Yeah, it was.
dude.
It was wild. It was kind of like, it was one of those things where when like sub-ohm vaping first came around and like people figured out that you could make a 60 milliliter bottle of liquid that costs you all in bottle if you were manufacturing in-house. And that's so important. A lot of people like we're good at manufacturing. We were doing that in the beginning, and like we still have a big passion for it. So like, for us to bring a vendor on, we could go audit their manufacturing and see what they're, there's a lot of angles of knowledge in here where you got to kind of check a lot of boxes to be able to come in here. Like Paperboys, they're making their own. That's a huge part of it. That's why their cost is so low, because they set up a spot in India and they're making it there. They're getting the paper in France. They're making it in India. They're bringing it here. It's extremely cheap. But in the very beginning of vape, it was like when the sub-ohm juice wave hit, it was like everybody figured out you could make a all-in a bottle. Dauber. This was before unicorn bottles for any vape nerds out there. A Dauber with a glass 60 ml bottle, a label, and all the liquid inside was like $1.25 to make, and they were retailing for like $28. It was it was gigantic, and so like once everybody figured that out, it was a fucking feeding frenzy. It was like, you want to talk about a market becoming saturated or oversaturated with like the craziest immediacy you could possibly imagine. It was like sub-ohm juice hit the market, sub-ohm mods hit the market, and it was just like everybody and their uncle and their cousin and their nephew that had a fucking dollar was making a brand and going after the trade shows, and it was nuts. It was
shit. Some of the retailers had lines out
yeah,
the door.
they were mixing them in the back room of retail stores because it was just so, the spread was so huge. It was ridiculous. And then of course it got, everybody raced to the bottom, and then disposable pods came out, Jewel, all that stuff, and then disposables came out, and that wave has long since broke.
Well, it was funny because I remember when my dad came back from a trade show. This is before they literally had e-cigarettes that looked like cigarettes.
Yeah,
and
Cigalikes is what those
I
were
forget
called.
what they were, but my dad brought one home. My dad used to always love going to trade shows, whether he's involved in the trades or not. He was like the epitome of an entrepreneur, even though he was in the land and real estate game forever. And so he just always was doing it. And I remember he brought home, I think I probably still have it at the house, I'll bring it in. He brought home a box of a brand, and it was a cigarette, and you screwed on, it had to look a tan filter, white battery thing. You hit it and it lit up on the end. But that technically was a disposable.
Yeah.
And then it went into the liquid, and then everybody's like, disposables are dead. And now disposables are not even fucking king. These things are king dingling.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
They crushed everything.
Yeah, they crushed everything. So it's like,
Vape is like freaking hip hop music.
dude, it's like,
Yeah.
bro, what's crazy about vape is
just cycling
we could
so
sit
fast.
here and talk about vape, and everybody will agree with it that's in this space, in our counterculture space, because everybody's involved in it in some way, because it just has the quickest turns, and these things work really well, and the flavors are really good. I mean, it's done a good job on it. It's only gotten better, but there is a boneyard of brands that were hot.
Oh yeah.
And then not. And I'm not talking like hot, like these guys were just running a few $1 million in sales. These guys were running numbers.
Yeah, 40 by 40s.
Like, you know what I mean? Like these guys were running numbers.
I remember Space Jam was
Oh, God.
gigantic.
Cosmic Fog.
Yeah. Suicide Bunny.
Oh, Suicide Bunnies.
Huge brands.
And then and the crazy thing is when a brand is maintaining a brand or pivoting and moving into a brand. And that's, I think, where the real business guys and entrepreneurs come in, because sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of luck. I mean, there's some things that I've seen in the space that just don't make sense.
Yeah.
Label sucks, branding sucks, juice, okay, or juice really good, but all that sucks, sells crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Then I've seen it where label is amazing, branding's amazing, and the product was horrible.
Yeah.
Killed it though.
Still selling. Yeah.
Off of a sticker. And so it really was hard for me to even judge on any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it, I was the front of the house guy, so that's maybe why we struggled on it. It's because I'm over here like bobbing for apples on this shit.
I won't replay for anybody all the things that Doug used to say about the vaping people. But
oh man, if I would have ever made it in that tent and someone would have handed me a microphone,
been ugly.
I'd have been fighting the whole room.
yeah, it would have been ugly.
The videos would have been like, who's this crusty old dude fighting a bunch of 20-year-olds?
Yeah, we
like,
would have bleeped a lot of shit, if we were.
It's funny that like when I looked
I would have definitely needed Motu and bass then.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we needed security for sure.
It's funny because like as he mentions like the brand's in a sticker and then it's not a good product, but the sticker wins.
So many of those.
So like me and Q, we make it a point to like walk champs all the time, and I make it a real point to go walk it with Kyle, because Kyle's like an encyclopedia to the whole industry.
Yeah, he knows
dude,
everything.
he knows everything.
And everybody.
Mikey does though too, and Tori Roberts too.
Yeah, Tori's
I don't
good.
want to go with you or Tori because I'll be stuck.
Yeah, it's bad.
Well, I actually think Tori
I'll talk
Roberts,
your face off.
Tori
It's not
Roberts
good.
can be like the most dangerous guy when it comes to knowing everything top to bottom when it comes to vape and everything else. Because not only is Tori very smart about things, he's also a user of things.
Yeah, big time.
So it's like I know the category really well, but people are like, what does it do? And I'm like, I don't know, I ain't taking that.
Yeah. Tori will eat it and tell you how bad it sucks immediately.
Yeah, Tori's like, let me
So
tell you.
it was funny because I was like walking around and I'm so fresh to the industry, right? I don't know nobody, I don't know nothing, but I know branding.
Yeah.
Like, and then some of the brands I'm walking around, I was like, that looks really good. I was like, what the fuck is it? Because I don't take it. I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
Sure.
But that looks good. Like, I'm a CPG guy. I know how to take the rock and make him have a drink. I know how to take nitrous oxide and make you drink it and be with Monster now and be the number 4 energy drink in the nation.
Yeah.
I know when you do the branding right. I saw Third Eye Blind, and then after I was like,
Third Eye Blind.
Yeah, I was just like, not Third Eye Blind, Third Eye or
Just
whatever.
Third Eye.
Yeah.
Third
Like
Eye.
Kratom.
And I sat there and I was like, that's really fucking dope. And this guy comes, he goes, that was ours. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh
we
shit.
see Third Eye up.
But like Treehouse is dope.
Phenomenal. Yeah, Treehouse is
Treehouse
great.
is great.
We love them.
the Flourish.
Well, dude, what about
Those
this?
guys are awesome.
What
We
about
love
this
them.
on branding for Hush? So like when we first launched Hush, I wish I had the bottle. I have them somewhere in my office. I have the original Hush. And I remember when we did the branding, we did it on a budget. You know what I mean? Like the one thing I loved about Mark and Troy and the back end of when we created that brand was, and Mikey was a part of that too.
Yep.
Was they took the same quality QC and like safety and all that stuff on it. So we knew we had a really good product top to bottom as far as what it was for basically a Kratom consumable. But like, but the branding on the box, you know, like I'm not the best person to judge these things, right? So I kind of like leave it up. But I like the original branding. And I'll never forget when frickin' Chicky came in and said, I got this guy. And he's going to rebrand it. And we were already selling a lot. Like we were getting traction.
Oh, I know the story you're telling.
We were doing great. And I'll never forget, Chick comes in and he's like, I'm going to rebrand it. And I'm like, well, I don't have anybody complaining about the branding of it. Right. And he's like, no, I'm going to rebrand it. I found a guy. He's extremely expensive. And I remember what Chick said it was going to cost. Like it was like at the time, it was like it might as well have been $1 million because it was so far from what we could stroke on bills. And Mark bit the bullet because Mark controlled the brand. Obviously, you know, everybody knows that. You know that was theirs. You know, and Mark bit the bullet even outside of me and Troy telling him not to because we wasn't need it. Did it. And the person that did it was Abe, and a lot of people know Abe. I forget what it was. Abe's last name was Rosalind. I just want to give him a shout out because Abe's good.
Junker or something.
Yeah,
like that?
I think his name Rosler or something. But he's on the floor still, and he does a lot of branding. Like when you see really good branding on the floor,
it blows your mind.
Like a lot of the times, it's Abe.
You're like, I know who did that.
But the crazy thing is, this dude. Remember, you know Quincy. This dude is not cheap.
No.
And like he reminds me of like an artist. Like if you show him something that you do, he's like, that's nasty.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? That's ugly, right? But then when he does something. It's always the best, right? And I think a lot of people attack him for that, but I always liked it because I'm the same way when it comes to my sales art. Is, you know, I'm pretty prideful of how I sell, and you know, I don't think I'm the best. I know I'm the best, right? And Abe takes that into the design world, but like even Quincy, remember when some of the things Quincy's like, this isn't really that like, you know what I mean? But to Abe,
don't
you know
tell
what I mean?
him
Abe's not hearing any of that. And I think some of it was true.
Well,
but
we had a giant Hush display at an HQ event, and the green was a little bit off.
Yeah.
And he was going around to everyone like you, Motu, being this is the wrong Pantone. This is not the right green.
Yeah.
It's like,
you're like, how do you even?
Dude, he's a
even
perfectionist, dude. But I'll be honest with you, dude. Like he knows his worth, and he ain't scared to do it, and he's not bashful. But I will say this: when he rebranded us, everything was still the same in the bottle.
Yeah.
He rebranded us, and bro, it took Hush to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I remember. It was like a curve. Like
so that's the back
straight
of
up.
what's in the bottle, what's on the scan, and then who's actually selling it.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in that. So it's a team. You know, everybody can sit here and take credit for what they touched and what they did, but you know, when it comes to the things that are in our tent, there's probably fucking 20, 30 damn hands that are on there.
100%.
You know, and everybody could probably take a little bit of credit for it. I came up with that. I remember when we did the red on Nano. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Nano is probably our best product, fastest scaling SKU in the Hush line. Took it off by storm. Got a bunch of people that copied it. We were the first people that named as Nano. That's a compliment, by the way. You know, I've noticed that, you know, people get mad when, you know, someone takes it. But the reality is it's the biggest form of flattery is when you see the marketplace using
imitation.
it. Yeah. And so, but when they came out with that red damn bottle, man, gosh damn, that thing looked good. You know what I mean?
It still stands out.
And it still stands out, and it's still hot, and it's a top 3 SKU in the Hush line. You know what I mean? Energy now is number 1, but it's just because it's price conscious.
Sure.
Do you get what I'm saying? When you get to Nano, Lime, and Platinum, they're expensive shots, you know? So, but yeah, man, branding's all of it. And
well, Q knows quite a bit about that, and we've actually kind of covered the gamut, the whole bubble of all of the psychology involved in this topic. But I want to get your opinion and what you think about some of the brands that you've worked on, and how you get to the point where they're you know, competitive and they're hitting the target audience and they're winning. How do you get there?
Well, there's still a large psychology component to it, I'd say, or just like an emotional component. Whenever you're working on a design, you got to sit back and think, how does this hit you? Like this part down here is kind of confusing to me. I don't really know why, but then you got to kind of iron it out. You got to really work on a design. And so that's why for a designer to be like in a good mood when they're doing their job, it will totally show in the design.
Sure.
If they're not in a good mood, it's just you're not gonna get very much. So it's very emotionally driven, but once you're flowing, once you get a good thing going, like you can come up with an entire brand within a day sometimes. Just like if you just have that flow going.
Yeah. It's like writing music or painting.
Yeah.
You might write a note or you might write a song.
Yeah, exactly. You might be staring at the page all day, and then like in the last hour, you got everything.
Yeah.
And trying to think of all the different brands that I've worked on. I've worked on quite a few, especially back in the day of Lotus. I worked on, created well over a dozen juice brands. I can't even remember their names.
They had so many.
They and a lot of them just never made the light of day. You just work on so many things.
Did you do the ones with the girls on the bottles? Do you remember those?
Oh, yes.
What was that?
Heavenly Sinful.
No, that was...
Heavenly Sinful.
Was it Heavenly Simple?
Yeah. It was like the heavenly flavors.
I thought
in the
that
Oh,
brand
that's
did
right.
good.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah. So
I remember that's a long time ago.
Joel and I worked on that
That's
one.
like
and
over
he
10
created
years
the
ago.
website for that one and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Was
that
Pat
was
there
funny.
back then?
Pat? I don't remember
Pat or there was another guy they had. I think his name was Sidian. Pat
Oh, I
was-
remember Sidian came in towards the end.
Yeah. Okay.
Towards
So
the
you
end.
worked with those guys.
Kind of. I was more remote at that
What
time.
other brands did you do over there?
Honestly, the Lotus had some in-house brands that we worked on a
Yeah,
lot of
But
that
it's the
then
same
China
thing. Like
ripped
if
off
you
from
ask
us.
Ernie, the problem is these guys have touched so much crap.
They don't know, yeah.
It's like it'd be like asking me the houses that I've sold.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
What-
Like,
what stands out to you? I guess. What's something you're like proud of?
Good point.
seriously.
Honestly, I'd have to go through our catalog. I'd have to go through our catalog.
You're proud
that
of the
was a
whole
good
thing?
one. That was
Yeah.
a good one. I mean,
I think when you look at it, you're like when I met you, and I remember like I was like, God, how am I gonna do this? Here's 3 guys that have been here. I'm taking over the whole shit.
Yeah.
I've done this before, but like, how do I do this with a distro and something this organic, this real? Like the pride he has for Drip Drop.
Yeah.
And like what he's done with his, with his cousin and with Jeremy, just the 3 of them at once.
Sure.
9 months ago. Holy shit.
Yeah.
9 months ago.
we're running.
There was a box with 3 shelves and 3 desks. And
Yeah.
that is, I think that's like, we talk about it a lot because like outside of work, we talk more than we should.
Yeah.
Like, we talk a lot and just like, what's the coolest brand? I think we and then it hit me at Champs, right? We like kind of hit both of us. We're like, it's not about the brands that we're leaving behind as a legacy.
Yeah.
It's the people.
Yep.
And that's been a really cool
That echoes
experience.
through every department here too. It's kind of crazy. Like we have Jackie out there and Noah, and we have the people on the sales floor. Like people fucking live and breathe this place. It's the craziest thing. Like I've worked a lot of places, and most people are like, "Fuck this job." Like it just doesn't happen here.
I think the craziest thing is
people
to
love
see
it.
how fast Quincy builds a brand.
Yeah.
That's like I like I'm competitive as shit. Like,
It's true.
So what do you do? Get in the best mood possible, and then
Yep.
Yeah,
Alright.
well, the thing that's fun about building a brand is it's like my dad used to have this saying, but like my dad really didn't build brands. I mean, technically he did. Like when he did, developments, and he had to come up with the name of a subdivision, and they had to have a look, and then you had like your landmark, your landscape piece when you went
that
in. You had
sounds
to
a
have,
lot more fun
you had
than
to have
what
a
we do.
concept, and and then all that. Which I guess technically, like if my dad was here, he'd be like, "What are you talking about? I did branding my whole life." But like, so I get it. But my dad used to always say, and the older guys I grew up with, like because my dad always brought me to work. They used to call it called running the napkin, right? So a lot of guys have ideas, right? And we do this all the time.
that's
with
some
Troy.
old school shit to say. By the way, running the napkin.
Yeah, so
That's
what you would
fucking
do
old
is normal time, we'd like you have to remember, like we're in this tech age, but when I grew up watching my dad and those guys do businesses and stuff, you went to the coffee shop at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And you sat there until lunch.
Holy shit.
Right. And it's called running the napkin. So guys had ideas and stuff, and you would run the napkin. And if you could get past the napkin math of it, then you passed stage 1 and you could go to stage 2. So what is running the napkin? So the napkin would be like, oh, hey, energy shots or vape is a big thing that's up and coming. Did you guys see that vape shop that's over there? There's a line out the building or whatever. And so running the napkin would be like, hey, what is the cost of the bottle? And hey, what are they paying? $20. And I always like to run numbers backwards. See, a lot of people like to run them the other way,
Yeah,
where they
bottom
do
up.
the cost. I like to take what the consumer's paying and go back, right? So we could get $20 for this, right? So then you run it back. Okay, cool. Then what do you sell it for? Most retailers want double their money. So, okay, you got to be at 10 and then go back. And so when you run the napkin, then, it doesn't matter what the name of the brand is yet. right?
Yeah, the numbers gotta
You
line up.
got to get the numbers in line. So then once you get the numbers in line, you got to do some estimations of, how much can you sell and, and all these other things. But once you pass the napkin, then you're in stage 2 where you're like, okay, now let's create the name. What concept are we going with? What type of bottle are we going with? So then you get guys like Ernie and, and Quincy,
Yep.
And then you got to put the look to it. So you can tell them where you're going with it, give them some ideas, but they got to come up with it. And what I've learned is it's better. I used to always try to trap people. This is what I want. And this is like, and I think it's good to point people in the direction where you want to go. But sometimes you got to get guys like Quincy and guys like Ryan and Jeremy and them. And you just got to let them go because you never know where they're going to end up.
Never know.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, of
like
course.
something that you pigeonholed them in, they struggle with. But if you let them go, and I've learned that. And so once you get all that stuff together, and then now you go into sourcing and production, and you bring somebody in like Mikey.
Yep.
So Mikey knows how to do the labor component of it, the bottle filling of it, or whatever. Put it together. Troy's been my go-to guy for that for 15 years. Of whenever we have these concepts, and Troy comes up with the ideas too. Matter of fact, most of the time Troy comes up with the ideas and marking them. I'm not a creative guy. Like I go out to the marketplace, I'm like, they're doing this. Give me this. Yeah. And then they're like, okay, coming up, double cheeseburger. Do you get what I'm saying? Right? Like I can't do what these guys
You're
do.
super creative because like the thing this is a good point for anyone building a brand. Douglas T. Campbell Jr. does one cool fucking thing. He fucking gives it to you. He optimizes your time when he sells you something.
Yeah.
He'll sit there and look at you and be like, do you want to make money? Done. The other thing, I just heard it. You want to buy a battery pack? Let me take the battery out of the car and show you it still runs.
Yeah.
That's the first time here. Here's the other one. We're talking about getting them ready to go. They're doing a road trip, right? And I'm sitting here talking to Q about it. And I've seen these things everywhere. I was like, what is he using? And Quincy would be like, hold on one second. In his nerdy fashion, come back, and just slam this huge thing on the table. It's a 2-shelf, 3-shelf, 4-shelf.
Yeah.
It's like, here, I packaged you to make a shit ton of money in 3 different packages. How much money you got?
Yeah.
Like, that's the creativeness that I don't think you give enough credit to yourself for.
Yeah, and I get that, and I appreciate that. But like, I'm on the front, right? So I need to people to say yes more than they say no.
Right.
And so if people can sit there and poke holes in it, like I got to package it and bundle it. And then the other thing is about you're talking about the 2 tiers, 3 tiers.
Yeah,
in those.
yeah.
So I don't know if I exactly came up with that. Like, I don't want to take credit for that, but I know that I was a part of the process in it. But the reality of it is when you're starting a brand and it's something that's new, it's easier to do a package bundle. Like, hey, for this bonus pack, if you spend $500 with me today, it brings in $1,300 worth of revenue. So I call it speaking to the greed.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
You
That's
get what I'm
good. That's a good
saying?
name for it.
That needs to be a shirt.
Because it's like because when you're in business and you're an entrepreneur, right? You're looking for opportunities and you're looking for partners and you're looking for brand selection and all that stuff. So if you go and you spend a bunch of money on your store, well, then now you need partners and you need product to get it in. And if I give you my Drip Drop catalog and I let you, hey, here's my catalog, tell me what you want, right? Well, the reality of it is I don't know what the hell you're going to pick. So I'm just trying to get you to do business with us. And if I'm not going to work you through the menu like a waiter, right, and know what moves really well, like I'm trying to hit a home run with you so we can get deeper in the catalog.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like when I was a waiter as a kid, and I highly recommend that for anybody that wants to be in sales, work in the food. You get what I'm saying? Go, and I don't care if you work in the best restaurant or the worst. There's a lot to learn.
Didn't you interview Damien that way?
Damien was the best waiter that I've seen in probably 10 years. And as soon as I watched him work through the menu at a difficult place that has a very exorbitant menu, I literally turned to Motu and said, I want that kid in my office.
I didn't know that.
And then the first time I brought Damien in,
I knew he was a server.
I'll
but
never forget it. Like I'm trying to think of the price. So there was some specials, and Damien could break it down on how it's cooked, how it's seasoned, what it's garnished with. Do you get what I'm saying? And,
Yeah.
and that's tough. Like, it's one thing to know the menu, but then when you come in and you have 4 specials that change or 3 specials that change daily. And then you have to remember too, most restaurants have a new soup every day or some type of salad that they put together, you know, on it. So you always have that. So it's always moving. And Damien, we had a large table when we sat there. And I mean, we literally had, I think, like 8 people. I think even Lauren from Kush Cards was with us.
Yeah.
So she remembers meeting Damien for the first time. Carlos and Lauren were with us. But Damien ran about 8 to 10 of us through the damn menu on specials. And I was just sitting there the whole time, just staring at him. Right? Good looking kid, good talker, wasn't reading off of anything. And I already knew the steak that he said he was going to order. And I think it was like a ribeye. And like it had chimichurri, even though I know Sue wasn't. But like the funny thing is when Damien came in, when I said I want that kid in my office, do you get what I'm saying? I'll never forget when Damien came in to interview. I ran it back on the menu. I was like, "Hey, what was that? What was that special my wife got?" And he's like, "Oh, your wife got the bone-in cowboy cut ribeye." And I already knew the price too. And I was like, "How much was that again?" And he was like, $55. And I was like, "Dude,
This kid.
He's still that way.
I know he's a freak. I love Damien. Everyone does.
But no, getting back to like the napkin. So you have the napkin, right? You have the idea. Then you bring in these guys and you get the name, and then you do all that, and then then you get guys like you that have to now bring all these things to fruition, sourcing and stuff, and then now you're ready to go to market. And I think that right there is where I excel. Do you get what I'm saying? All that other stuff, I can't do. Like, I mean, I could be a part of it and be in it, but it's not the stuff I like to do. And so, and even Motu will probably tell you this because Motu's a front of the house guy too, but Motu likes to mess with that stuff. Do you get what I'm saying? And I always have to remind Motu, this is not, bro.
Yeah, get out.
Listen, bro.
Nobody wants you back. You get out.
Yeah,
no.
I like always have to
How many
remind
people
him.
I've kicked Troy out. Even he's good at it. But like when we were doing Bedrock, and he was like, "You're gonna be master of these machines, and you're gonna we need you to make all this stuff." If Doug walked in, I was like, "Get him out, everybody."
Yeah.
Doug, Troy, didn't matter.
Yeah.
I know you guys. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
It's
but-
fun, but get out of here.
Yeah. So then, but when you take a brand to market, I always like, and everybody will, if they watch this, and I don't know how people are following this or watch this, but anybody that's been on my team will look at this and I love this because I've always said this stuff in the building when people are here and they all disagreed with me on this. I'm talking about sales side of it, of building a brand, and I always say this, I play the small ball. And people are like, "Well, what do you mean?" You're like, "How did you build this brand so well?" And listen, I don't have extreme amount of success with everything that I touch. So I want to make that very clear. I know be all, see all, or anything.
We've had some losers.
We've had some losers, right? But there's not a successful entrepreneur out there that could tell you that you have more failures than you do have
100%.
successes.
Amen.
Right? And so that's just the facts. But what I will say is I always play the small ball. And what I mean by the small ball is you have a lot of guys that like to sell the big ticket numbers. They like to sell the pallets. They like to sell the truckloads. Those are all great stuff. But when you're building a brand and you're starting from square one, the most important person in this is the lady that has one store, the guy that has 2 stores, and they can only spend $300 to $500 because that's all they're willing to risk on it. That's how you build a brand. You build a brand on Main Street. Yep. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to build a brand online. Okay, I don't know how to build a brand on social media. I'm super intrigued on it, and I'm super jealous of it. I know some people that have done this, and they didn't leave their house. Like when you tell me about the Liquid Death thing, not saying they didn't work their asses off because they did, but when you tell me the story of like Liquid Death and some of these other guys, I would never know how to do that because I'm a guy that's like, where's the product? I know where the customers are.
Yeah.
Get it in the fucking car. Let's go.
Yeah,
I'm just old school.
Go beat a
How
door.
long did you run Drip Drop without a website even?
We ran Drip Drop, has to have been 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
most of it
it was
was
probably
without
it was over half of its life for sure.
And that was
Yeah,
like the
we
number
just
one
barely got a website within the
We
last
barely got
3
marketing
years.
team like last or the year before last.
And
You
our
guys
new
started to build
website's
it.
launching soon.
Well, the
enjoy
thing
that.
is I've had numerous people over here at Drip Drop that have told me and Troy, straight up, have told me and Troy, you did everything backwards.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you get what I'm saying? And we're like, what are you talking about? They're like, you did everything backwards. Like Ryan Wagner would say this to me all the time. You like broke every no rule
Yeah.
with building your company. And I'm like, I don't think we did.
No, we just knocked on doors.
Like,
that's
you know
all.
what I'm saying? And so, like, I grew up in California, and you could probably appreciate this. Flea markets.
Yep.
Right? Look at our industry, okay? Our industry. I'm not talking about everybody else's industry, but who are the guys that are really killing it? The guys that are killing it, dude, are these Indian guys, these Pakistani guys, these Southeast Asian guys. Go to your fucking flea markets and see who's pushing product on you. And go see how they're pushing on you. It's these guys.
They're hustling.
And like, that's what I say all the time. I tell this to all the guys that I grew up with, man. Like, I grew up in California, so it's super diverse. And we
I
all
want to go to a flea market.
and we all thought we were hustlers. And what I mean is I'm talking about white boys, brown boys, and black boys. The culture of America. Dude, I'll take these Southeast Asian dudes all day long. These dudes from freaking, even the Arab guys that we have, these dudes are bangers.
Yeah.
These dudes are grinders. These guys know how to be on the ground. Do you get what I'm saying? Do some of them do some things that are a little bit different? Yeah, and I think a lot of us as Americans are feel entitled, but these are Americans too. These guys have citizenship. They're working on green cards and stuff, but these guys are hustlers, and I am so intrigued with them.
Yeah.
I want to be next to them. I want to learn from them. Do you get what I'm saying? And I know damn well some of them are my really good friends. They know I could fucking run with them. Do you get what I'm saying? But they're the new cloth of America that's out here, and man, I just love it, man. Like that. Like I have no question of why these guys build monster brands. It's because they put their fucking foot to the fucking pavement.
They do.
Sometimes you get, and in this world today, like I know the guy that built Assholes Live Forever. And,
That's a great.
and
Yeah,
he's
it's a
and
great
he's
name.
digital only. He's got a plant in Mexico. It's kind of like a whole nother resurgence and the consistency of the education of what he's doing and the drops and everything. He's doing 31 million. Right?
Yeah.
And it's just incredible what
It's
he's
phenomenal.
doing. Yeah, he was at Champs. He actually is going to be coming into the space because this is his demo and everything, and it's just incredible. Like I always tell anybody, like, kind of like to almost wrap it up. Like I promise you, build a brand in this day and age, and there's two ways to do it. Like I said from the beginning, it's either you're hitting the doors like the way Doug did it,
Yep.
or you're hitting the screens the way that we're doing it.
Yeah,
but when
hitting
you
the
do
screen.
both, you're on fire.
Yeah, you're doing it.
Yeah. So I'm telling you now, Assholes Lives Forever is going to be hitting doors next.
Sure.
Liquid Death hit screens first. Now they're hitting doors.
Doors, yeah.
And now here's the crazier part. Prime was hitting screens first on YouTube. They hit the doors and they just beat Gatorade.
Yeah, they're huge.
Is that really?
It's a real statement.
That's crazy.
Like they just beat Gatorade.
And we went the other way. We beat the doors, and now we're hitting the screens.
Yeah. Backwards, but we're doing it.
We'll let you know how it works
so,
out.
So to wrap this whole thing up, I'd really love to just get one more, maybe another 5 minutes out of Quincy. I want to hear. It's become a tradition. I want to hear about people's follies, and maybe not here, maybe your last job, maybe a job before that. But I'd love to hear a short story about something that maybe has some sort of humor behind it that is like an egg on your face moment inside of brand building.
Real quick before jumping right into that, just to touch on everything else. A huge part of any industry or building brands or anything is continued education. Like just how to be a better salesman, just being around people that you've never sold around before, or how fast technology is advancing, especially with AI these days. You have to stay on top of it, and it's almost a daily thing. And if you don't, then you're just easily going to get left behind in pretty much all of it.
Yeah, no, AI is crazy. It's incredible.
Quincy's 100% correct. Like when people always say all the time, "Oh, you're the best sales guy," they're fucking right. I am. You know what I mean? But when they say this shit, everybody likes to be fond and they want their pillow fluffed and all that stuff. I love it too. I fucking come on. I love it. But the reality of it is Quincy nails it on the head. The reality of it is the reason why I love sales is because it's an evolving trade. Okay, and the second that you think you know everything, you know fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I always say this all the time. I'm the best sales guy. I'll take the compliments. Okay. I am. But when you negotiate against me or I'm selling across the table on you, there's 30 motherfuckers that you're negotiating against because I grew up with some guys since I was 15, 16, all the way through my life of selling cell phones. I like battery packs, all of it. I still learn from the youngsters. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I still learn from some of the guys that I have. Do you get what I'm saying? And like I never turn that off.
Yeah, always
Do you
learn.
get what I'm saying? Like I literally see people. I remember one time we had a guy up here. I heard him say something on the phone where the lady told him no, and then he said something, and it was the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard in my life. I swear I would never say it. And the lady was like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll take that now. Oh, by the way, double it." And I'm like, "What the hell did you just say?" And he's like, "Well, I just told her, this and this." I was like, "Bro, I'm using that one."
Are you learning from Titus and Leah? Or
Dude, yeah, because
Evolve,
like
constantly
all of
evolve
it's
is-
like
is,
because like this is what I'm saying. It's like
learn, keep learning.
Like I remember when I sold Cricket Wireless, there was a guy, I forget his name, dude. But
damn, he's throwing it back.
yeah, like I helped launch Cricket
early
Wireless on
Cricket,
the
yeah.
independent side, and my dad brought me into that. And that's a funny story because all the guys that were on the sales crew didn't want me on the sales crew.
Dude, what did Senior not do? Golly.
Well, I mean, he did nightclubs. He did a lot
Did
of
it all,
things.
yeah.
But like,
Bowling alley,
but
disco.
I remember when I got on the cricket team, nobody on the team wanted me on the team because I was like, I think I was like 20. We just found out we were having Taylor, and me and Sue were not in a bad spot, but we're just broke kids living in San Jose. We're renting a garage. And the team that my dad assembled for the wireless all were guys that had marketing degrees. And, they were all in like their mid to late 20s, and they were all good dudes. And then they're like, "Oh, you're taking some kid that's 20 years old that knows nothing about cell phones other than how to use it, and you're adding them on my team." And the only reason why I got on the team was because my dad owned the damn thing, right? And my dad literally told all of them, "Listen, you ain't never met my kid, but my kid's going to outsell every single fucking one of you." Do you get what I'm saying? And so they're like, "Whatever, put them on." And I did. But there was a guy that was on our team that we grabbed from New Mexico. And I think he was a Persian guy, if I remember right. And he was a fucking savage. I mean, this dude was like literally gave me my whole aggro side of my business.
Yeah.
And like he was like, I
Cute,
think he
we
was like 5 or 6 years older than me. He was like 20, maybe like 27, 28. And he wouldn't even wait for you to get out of the car. Like, I'm not lying.
Yeah.
Like if you pulled up and were in range of where we were operating, he was already, dude, box in hand, opening up your damn door. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, that's ballsy. I'm doing that. They get what I mean? And so, and there's another guy, I'm not going to say his name, but if he's watching this, he'll know who he is. There's been one guy in here who's a youngster. He's in the space and he's doing really well. Out of leaving the company, he's been doing pretty good. I'm proud of him. But I only had him for like 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it wasn't like I had him for a long time. But I will say this, he was my travel buddy like he was with Bass, And we traveled all the time. We loved each other. We hated each other and everything in between. And that relationship is still the same.
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
it hasn't changed. So, but I will say this. I know for a fact that he learned a lot of things from me. And he was never scared. But he already had a bunch of stuff too, though. So it's not like he came in green. He didn't come in green. But what I'm saying is I know for a fact he learned some things because I dragged him around, but he wasn't scared to use the stupid shit that I do.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like he would see me do some dumb stuff. Motu does not like the way that I sell. And I don't like the way Motu sells. Like I want to punch Motu. Like literally when I'm in meetings with Motu, I just want to like, you know what I mean? And Motu wants to do the same thing to me. But my point is he wasn't scared to use it. And I learned from all those guys, and you nailed it on the head. It's the same thing. You always continue education. They sell that in the real estate world. It's sharpening your tools, dude.
Yeah.
You might have the tools, but you got to oil them up. You got to sharpen them, and you got to get out of your own way. And you can't come to the table act like you're a fucking know-it-all on it because you don't know shit. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And your best teacher is your failures, right?
You're
As you say all the time.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of done failing. So
Yeah, I know. I'm at 45 years old right
Don't
now.
wanna fail anymore.
I don't want to either. Me and Troy talk about that all the time. We're like, okay, like, but at the same time, you don't want to lose the edge. The edge is really important. And so,
Yeah, and you got to stay on the forefront of everything in order to keep that edge. So, like what Quincy was talking about with AI, that's like you're talking about like learning from salespeople and learning words, but you got to stay on the edge of technology also. And
That's hard.
Yeah,
I
that's a hard thing.
struggle with that.
Yeah.
It's just like I had to call Quincy today to
Yeah.
ask him what type of computer to buy. I don't know, dude. You know what I mean? I just need someone to tell
I
me.
sent him a Costco link.
Yeah, you know, and
But like even he and I were like, we're on top of it. Like,
Yeah.
and like this day and age, like if you had an agency about 10 years ago, you built a branding agency, then you built a creative agency, then a social media agency, then a paid ad agency, right? That's just the spiff, right? Today, like, and fuck, we're probably giving it away because we talk about it like privately. AI agencies in 2 or 3 years are going to be a thing.
yeah,
Oh,
People are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, we're the expert at this AI software." They're not even fucking really talented. They're using AI.
Yeah, AI is doing it for them.
Yeah, they're just users.
Now
of
it's just
it.
learning how to talk to AI.
Yeah.
It's so like we question it all the time. We're like, you know, we have Alex, right? Like who came up from shipping and everything. This kid is fucking gnarly. Like he has an eye.
Yeah.
The kid's got it, right? We teach him tools and he's gone. I'm like, oh, dude, we're getting old.
Yeah.
This is getting bad. We have AI and there's Alex's.
Yeah.
What do we do? And then we're just realizing it's like you just got to stay on top of the good AI.
Yeah.
And that's like the hardest thing is like what platforms are there? And then like even me and like me, Christian and Kyle, like just for the processing the orders, we're like Zapier and this and this and that and Zoho and blah 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 blah. And you want this full automation. And then Troy comes up to us and like 2 months ago, he's like, "Can we AI everything?" And I look at him, I'm like, the answer is yes, no, and no, yes.
Yeah.
Because
Kind of.
we're
And
not
not
there
yet.
yet. But when it comes, I'd be really when it comes. The thing that's nice about counterculture, it's recession proof.
I think so too. It's the reason why I got into it. Me and Troy got into it. I mean, Troy was a super successful painting contractor and it worked his ass off. And then, you know, I come from the land development, real estate world, which are all things that we could get back into and we know really well. But we love this space because of the people, because of the products. It's fun. I would not be in another place. I said this at the CCA Awards. I love this space, and I do believe that it's recession proof.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I truly do.
We'll find out soon.
Yeah,
Well, we're gonna start getting this wrapped up. I'm gonna get to Quincy again. Him and I are gonna be on another one. I want to do another podcast with Quincy and Ryan and possibly even Grace. I think that would be a lot of fun.
the hell's gonna run the cameras?
We'll get to a goofy story at that point. But anyways, thanks for joining us. I want to thank the guests here that stopped in and gave me some time. Follow us on everything at Drip Drop Distro, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and you can listen to the podcast and watch the video, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all at Drip Drop Distro. Again, thanks for joining us. We love you guys. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.